Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello and welcome once again to the WP Builds podcast. You have reached episode number 330, entitled Get Lots for Free with Maxi Blocks. It was published on Thursday, the 15th of June, 2023. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and just before we begin the podcast, a few short bits of housekeeping. Firstly, if you were there at WordCamp Europe in Athens over the weekend, and I did not manage to catch up with you, I'm very sorry about that. I tried my best to walk around in the free time that I had. It was lovely to meet so many of you, and hopefully, if we did miss each other, we can catch up another time. But what a wonderful event that was. The other thing to mention is if you enjoy listening to the WP Builds podcast, please share it. The best way to do that would be to use perhaps something like our Twitter handle at WP Builds, or possibly just simply share the URL wpbuilds.com. But if you yourself would like to keep up, the address for that is wpbuilds.com/subscribe. Go and fill out the form there, click on some of the links, and you will be notified when we produce new content. Typically, that's a podcast episode on a Thursday. That's what you're listening to now, but also we do our live This Week in WordPress show. We've had a couple of weeks off of that because of WordCamp Europe, but hopefully we'll be back next Monday with a full show. Don't forget, we're also in the middle of creating content with Mark Westgard, all about WS Form. You can find out about that on the WP Builds homepage, and also we do our regular show with Peachinary, and there's more details and calendar links, like I said, on the homepage of wpbuilds.com. One last quick thing, if you're into deals, we have a deals page. It's a bit like Black Friday, but every single day of the year, wpbuilds.com/deals. The WP Builds podcast is brought to you today by GoDaddy Pro. GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with The Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. You can find out more by heading to go.me/WP Builds. That's go.me/WP Builds. And we do thank GoDaddy Pro for their continuing and ongoing support of the WP Builds podcast. Okay, what have we got for you today? Well, we've got Christian Petersay from Maxi Blocks. There's a lot of block suites around at the moment. Maxi Blocks is one of those, but they've got a very different model. Their model is all around what they're giving away for free, and largely they're giving away everything for free, but they've decided to make their premium offering more about the designs that they've got available. So the functionality and the features are all going to be in the free version, but if you want some premium designs, that's where you're going to be finding the buy now button. It's a really interesting product. Christian's on the show explaining how they got started, how it works, and exactly what is in it. Fantastic. I hope that you enjoy the podcast. I am joined on the podcast today by Christian Petersay. Hello, Christian.
Hi, how's it going, Nathan?
Yeah, good, thank you. Nice to connect with you. As is always the case, we always pretend in these podcasts like Christian and I haven't been talking for the last 40 minutes, but of course we have. And Christian's been outlining a really interesting product that I hope by the end of this podcast you are inspired to go and check out. It's called Maxi Blocks. Just to paint some contrast into this podcast episode, the URL for that is maxiblocks.com. Given that we are going to be talking about that, it may be a good idea to pause the recording, go to maxiblocks.com, MAXI, and then blocks, as you'd expect, .com, all one word, no hyphens. Go check it out. Come back, you'll be in a better position because of that. Before we kick off talking about Maxi Blocks, Christian, I wonder if you wouldn't mind just couple of minutes, something like that. Just give us a little bit of background about you and the company you work for, how come you're in the WordPress space and creating blocks and all of that stuff.
Sure. So my name is Christian Petersay. I'm the co-founder of Maxi Blocks, along with my partner Kyra. She's the designer, I'm the technical person. We started with WordPress this was already 2011. We initially had a web design agency. Then we made the switch to building patterns and layouts for people in the Divi niche. And from the Divi niche, we made the switch to Gutenberg. When that came out, we realized that there was a real opportunity there to do something different and to do something unique. So we started developing Maxi Blocks, and we've been doing that for the last 3 years. And we just recently launched into the repo, and here I am chatting with you.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that was nice and concise. That's excellent. So, yeah, we are talking about a suite of blocks. I think one of the things that both Christian and I want to get really clear at the beginning of this podcast, so we're doing this right at the top before we start exploring all of the features and things, is the business model. Because if you have been purchasing paid for pro versions of blocks, then what Christian's offering is a little bit different. The traditional model, I think it's fair to say, is that you purchase or you get a free suite of blocks and then you add in functionality. You may be buying additional blocks or perhaps unlocking additional features within the settings for those individual blocks. But you're at pains, Christian, to point out that your business model is really different to that. And so really, I'm just offering you the floor here. Explain how you've structured your business.
I think probably the best way to do it would be for me to read a testimonial that someone gave us. I think this captures it perfectly. So this was someone who was an early supporter and currently a user of the product. His name is Annie, and he said, "I love your philosophy of keeping the plugin and all its features free, rather than hiding some features behind a paywall as most companies do, and then earning your income from professionally designed page and block templates that people may want to buy to speed up their website creation process, especially for people and companies that build many websites. It's a win-win." So I would say that concisely captures the way that we look at it.
Okay, so let's unpack that. But you have a suite of blocks, and they're basically, they're completely free. So all of the blocks, all of the features, all of it is free. The way that your business is structured is you are upselling patterns and page templates. That's the upsell. So if you want to build with Maxi Blocks, everything is free, and I guess the promise is will always be free. All the settings, everything's unlocked. You're just paying for the professional designs to save you time. Have I basically got that right?
You've nailed it. Exactly. And that's if you want to pay for it. You don't have to. You can take the page builder from the WordPress repo, install it, and start building for free and do whatever you want with it. It would essentially be the same as Gutenberg. If you have it on your site, it will always work. It will always update. It's the same. If you want to save time or learn about the advanced design features or all the things that you can do with the blocks, then you can have a look around the Pro library and look at those. But in addition, we also have the free items in the library. There's literally 700 free patterns that you can download. In addition, there's a big template library with a lot of icons, which we'll get into a little bit later. Those icons automatically change color based on the style card. When you choose it inside the plugin, it will automatically update to take the colors for you.
I'm curious as how you decided to settle on this business model, because it's a tried and tested idea, a pro version of a plugin where you lock away some features, and if there's people who have a desire for something fairly fairly basic. They get the free version, and if they want to extend the functionality and have additional settings and what have you, which meet their needs, you buy the Pro version. So I'm curious as to what the thinking was there. Was this it simply to sort of separate yourself into the market? Is this something that you've tried with a different product before? Yeah, what was the thinking about that whole everything is free except for the design library?
Yes, exactly. So I would say when we started building the template library, one of the things that we thought, well, how are we going to set ourselves apart from the other players? Because in 2 or 3 years from now, most of the page builders will have a similar feature set. I think that's a fair assumption because the technology is moving that way. So we thought to ourselves, what's really going to set us apart? And the answer that we came up with was the quality of our templates and whether the plugin itself is open source and people are not locked in by certain features or blocks inside of the plugin. And that's where we made a decision and said, okay, we've got to make the plugin and all its features free. And what we do differently from everyone else is the quality of the design and the templates that we create with it.
Okay, that's a really interesting avenue to take, isn't it? Because most people, it feels like almost like the template library bit is almost sort of tangential to the business. You know, here's our suite of blocks, buy the Pro version. Oh, and by the way, we've got a load of templates that you can look at as well. So, you know, have a browse of those at your convenience. You've totally flipped that on its head. You've gone all in on free for the entire feature set, except the upsell for the design library, the patterns and the full pages and all of that sort of stuff, which we'll get into. So you must be really confident that you are saving people time, but also that you've got some fairly top-notch designs in there. What gives you that confidence? Do you have a background of selling patterns? Have you got a really experienced team of graphic designers working behind you?
Yes, we've been doing web design in our current form, let's put it that way. When we started the agency, previously I referred back from my history, was that we started web design in 2010. My partner, Kyra, who's the designer, started web design in 1998. So she's been doing this for 22, 23 years already. So she's extremely experienced. And we also have a separate product in a separate niche for Divi, as I've mentioned, where we've built over 2,500 patterns and layouts, as they call it there, in that niche. During this time, we've discovered a lot of things. What people like, animations, hover effects, especially responsive, which is a common issue for people nowadays, is how do you get your patterns to work in all the different devices? Typically, it would only be a desktop and a mobile and a tablet version. In our case, we've got 6 different breakpoints which we pay attention to. So the entire grid structure that we've created adapts and automatically creates the styles for you when you are in the editor for each of those breakpoints. So those really are the things that we do differently. And also, because we knew our focus had to be on making high quality patterns, we had to get the hovers, the interactions. We've got a full interaction builder. We had to make sure that the patterns themselves appeal and stand out next to the other players in the game. So we really focused on getting that right. And if you go to the template library, or if you install the plugin and you just load a few templates from there, you'll see what we mean when you make a comparison to other players in the game.
So what Christian's alluding to there is the demo section of the MaxiBlocks.com website. So if you go to MaxiBlocks.com/demo, you'll be presented, I guess, depending on the size of your screen, I'm looking at 4 or 5 different columns of whatever it is that you want to select. There's a menu on the left, so you can drill down to patterns, pages, icons, style cards, and then there's something called Playground. But then also that is subdivided up into things like headers, footers, icons, images, accordions, testimonials, all of that kind of stuff, and you can get a real impression of what they all look like. You can click on the preview button and have a good nosy around, and there's the option to show them as a tablet or a mobile view, as you might expect. And there's some nice little changes there, actually. Christian was showing me one of the patterns that they've got, and if you look at it on a mobile device, there's obviously a lot of design work gone into making it look considerably different, moving things from right to left and left to right and removing elements that just don't belong on a mobile. So it's worth having a play. But also, nifty little feature, this tone switcher, or it's called Switch Tone, where you can change it. In the one that I'm looking at, it basically goes from light mode to dark mode. But is it limited to that, or does the switching of the tone, is that something that's user definable? So I could go from, purple to red or something like that.
That's what you would use the style card for.
Got it.
And in each of the style cards that we have, there's a light tone style card and a dark tone style card. Each of those have about 35 different elements that you go through. Let me explain how the light and the dark tones work in relation to creating a page, because all the patterns that we've created so far is with the goal of building a complete page. Now, if you imagine a home page, for example, you start with a hero section at the top of the page, then you go to a text section or a testimonial or a little storyline or a gallery. Each of those sections, as you go through them, generally you want to create a different contrast between each section. Now, traditionally, when you build a page and you place all of the patterns in a sequence from the top to the bottom, sometimes you add an image, and that image forces you to change the tone of the background so that everything works. Right. Now, the second you change that one, let's say it's in the middle of the page, the second you change the background of that one section, everything else on your page needs to also change.
Yeah.
So if you have a page with 8 different sections and all of a sudden you decide to change section number 4 to a different tone, you have to switch every single tone up to the top, otherwise the contrast doesn't feel right. And that was the big time saver. So every pattern that we have in the library has a dark tone variant and a light tone variant. We create them from scratch, so that when you load a pattern in the library, or when you load a page in the library, if there's any section that you change and the contrast doesn't match, you just go into the pattern and you change the contrast to the light version, which then picks up the tone from the style card. So it's a huge time saver.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't really thought about it in those terms, because I had my head fixed on like dark mode on my computer. So on my Mac, for example, if I invoke dark mode, I just kind of assume that the texts, the font, if it's on a pale background, is going to be dark, and if it's on a if it's on a dark background, it's going to go natively pale, and it does all of that, and I don't really think about it. But of course, you're right. If I'm switching the tone on a pattern, then suddenly the black font on the black background, that no longer works, and I've got to go and change it. Whereas you've taken care of that. And so typically it's a light one versus a dark one. Is there a capability for me to change that? Let's say I've got a project where essentially I've got white, but I've got this kind of purple, which is the alternative. Can a user set that into the patterns as well? Right, okay.
Yes, you can. So just to clarify, the system light and dark tones that you're referring to, so you've got a light system on your mobile phone or on your operating system. our light and dark tones don't yet integrate with that part of your system operation. That is something we'll introduce later.
Got it.
The light and the dark tones apply to all the Maxi Blocks components. So whenever you use Maxi Blocks, custom blocks, or anything that's related to Maxi Blocks in the library, those will allow you to switch the tones.
Yeah.
And that relates to style cards. So let's chat about style cards. If you, any of the listeners, if you have it open, you can go to the Maxi Blocks /demo where the pattern library is. And then if you click on style cards, if you can follow along, Nathan.
I'm with you. I'm following along. Nice. Oh, yeah. I remember this. Yeah.
So this what you see here is a simple visual representation of a light tone and a dark tone, which then translates into a lot of code in the back end. So all of the things that you see in this demo is what you get inside of the plugin too. So once you open the plugin, you can you load the pattern library. Then you install a style card, you click on style cards, you go and you load a style card, and then, for example, you pick any of the ones that you like here. Once you click apply, all the Maxi Blocks patterns on your website will then take this new color scheme, which will represent what you can see inside of this little style card. In addition, there's a style card editor which you can open.
Right.
And then you can go into each of the different components and update them to your preference. So for example, if your dark tone, the background is not the color you're looking for, you can change it to the purple. And whenever you install a pattern or a page from Maxi Blocks, and it will automatically take that new style that you've set.
I think this is worth pausing on just for a moment, because this is really interesting. If you're listening to this driving the car, you're just going to have to pull over or something, I don't know, because it really is worth looking at. No, in all seriousness, if you are driving the car, keep driving the car, but it might be worth looking at this when you get home. So what I'm looking at the moment is I'm on maxiblocks.com/demo, and then right in the top there's a menu item. It's a horizontal menu item on the desktop: patterns, pages, icons, and I'm on style cards, and currently there's 100 there, and each of them is a split layout of the exact same content. So it says your awesome headline. Next to that is an icon. Under that is some text. Under that is a link and a hover state. It's showing you what a link would look like. And then 8 different font colors. I'm guessing they map to things like, paragraph text and H1s and things. Then what a button would look like and hover. And then the exact same thing in its other state. So I'm looking at the opposite. Yeah, the opposite, the light and the dark, if you like, or the state 1 and state 2, whatever you want to call it. And there it is. You can see it. You can get an impression of what your website would look like, what those overlapping rows, if you like. Your header, your hero is going to look like this. The one beneath it could potentially look like this. And so the icons broadly stay this. Actually, they don't. I think in some cases the icons change color. Yeah. Look at that. I see one now. Yeah. So I've got
icon line, icon fill.
Right, yeah, so I've got a picture of a little yacht, and it's got a blue icon on one, and the style variant, then it changes to white and so on and so forth. It's well worth looking at, because it would give you an immediate, in one eyeful, you're able to totally take in what it would do to your site. So you can obviously change the fonts as well, that's illustrated. So the icons, you can change the color of all these. What is it? You've got like 13,000 icons or something?
Yes, 13,413 icons.
Okay.
All painstakingly drawn by hand by Kyra.
Oh, wow.
Our designer. It's literally taken 3 years. She would get in the zone and then start drawing it. You take inspiration from elsewhere, you duplicate it over, and then it was all drawn in SVG format, which means that you can use it as a screen, you can use it as a layer, you can use it as a background, anywhere. All the icons are basically usable anywhere throughout the product, and they automatically pick up what you set in your style card. Just one thing I want to mention on the style card is it only changes Maxi Blocks.
Okay, yeah.
So it won't change. That integration is not there yet. The Gutenberg space is quite flexible and it's moving around quite a bit. These things aren't clearly set yet. There's a future version where we will be able to have our style cards integrate with Gutenberg, and ideally we wanted to integrate with our theme, so the Maxi Blocks theme, and that's what we're busy working on right now. So we're hoping to have that ready soon, and then that will integrate all of these things together.
So does that mean, for example, if I'm in just a core WordPress paragraph block, and I have a paragraph and I make it, say, black, and then I use one of your style cards and I change the paragraph color, it's not going to affect, at the moment, it won't affect the core WordPress block, or indeed a block from anywhere else. But Correct. At some point in the near future, you are intending to ship a theme which will take that pain point away, and then it will be able to style every paragraph block, no matter where it comes from.
That would be the goal.
Right, got it.
The practicality of making it happen, there's a different story.
Possible place you could get a paragraph block, there's the really, really worth looking at the icons. There genuinely is an icon for literally everything. It's broken down into different categories. There's nearly 1,500 creative shapes. There's about 1,200 fashion ones. Just go nuts. There's just so many. Every single social icon you can imagine. Some of these websites, no doubt, I've never even heard of. That's really cool.
So Kyra has been designing websites since 1998. So this was one of the things that was really important for us in Maxi Blocks was Kyra went out there and looked at every single website and went, what does every single website need? One of those were icons. Every single website out there, bar a few, uses an icon. There's always an icon somewhere for something. So we started looking around, and then we're like, there's hundreds of icon libraries and this and that. And the issue with changing the colors on an icon, if it's like a PNG or whatever, you have to get an external software program, download it, try to change the icon, then get it in the right size, then upload it to your site. Then sometimes it doesn't show, or it's not the right format, or there's a million things that come into play when it comes to icons. So that's why we decided to do them as SVGs, and the magic feature that we got was to let it integrate with the style cards. So when you load a pattern or a page from the library and there's an icon that's not suitable to you, you just click on the icon, go into the library, search for it. Our search is really awesome. It will come up. And then you just click on the icon, it inserts the icon for you, and it automatically is in the right color based on your style card. So it saves you a huge amount of time, and it makes it very easy to change. While you're on that page, do me a favor and search for phone.
Phone, just the word phone, okay.
Just
phone.
The word phone.
Oh, hold on. I'm in. Oh, yes. So, okay. I can see six. Oh, yeah, all right. Point taken. There's probably about 150, maybe 160 phones. yeah.
So
Kyra's done a good job with the phones.
Exactly. So this was the one thing. And so we were like, okay, every website needs icons. Check. We got that right. Then the next thing was, nobody wants to pay for icons.
Yeah.
Everyone wants icons, but they don't want to pay for it. Like you just can't justify you only need a few, and then you go, so which one am I going to pay for? People don't typically want to do that. So that was one of the things that we made completely free inside of the template library. So all the icons are free, all the style cards are free, and all the patterns under the free section obviously are free as well, of which there's at the moment 700 free patterns that you can use, and they are yours. Anyone can use them and install them.
So we've talked a fair amount about the business model, this idea of pro patterns and templates being the upsell, but there's obviously a load of free stuff. So loads of free icons, quite a lot of free templates and what have you as well. But I think one of the things that we haven't touched yet is the blocks themselves, so that's we're onto sort of normal territory. Your commercial rivals focus on this bit, but you're giving all of this away. So tell us about some of the sort of blocks that you've got and what some of the more common ones are. I mean, I'm on the WordPress.org webpage. I can see what you've got. I can also see what the roadmap is. Anybody can do that. I'll put the link into the show notes. But just talk about some of the ones that you're, most proud of, things that you've had the most feedback on, things that have changed the most over time, that kind of thing.
Yes, sure. I would say one of the most important ones, funnily enough, would be the container.
Yes.
And the row and the columns. Those are the basic building blocks that you need in order to make patterns. But the thing about those three main components is that it has to fit on the responsive grid. That's where all your different viewpoints and all the styles come from, is from the container, the row, and the columns. So that's where we spend a lot of time getting that right, and we had to almost spend 6 months rebuilding all the responsive code to work with the style cards and the text blocks and all of those components. One of the things that we noticed, because our focus is on creating usable patterns that you can build yourself or that you can install and that we can upsell in the library as an example, our focus shifted to have less blocks, what we call foundation blocks, and then rearranging those foundation blocks in the right format to give you the functionality that you want. So when you look at our blocks, overall, we've got less blocks, but the functionality that we can build with the patterns are more than most others, or it's not as complicated to combine them. So our focus it shifted our focus because we added more functionality into each of those blocks in order to get it to do the stuff that we needed to do. Okay, taking us another step back, I would say the text Maxi is a really, really good one. I mean, everyone needs text on their website. We also have different bullet lists. Each of those bullet lists that you have, you can pick any icon from the library and use it for the bullets. And those bullets take the color of your style card if you pick this. So that's automatically all the way through. Then there's the SVG icon block, which is a big one. And obviously your icons go in there. But what's fun about it is we've got something called background layers. And that allows you to create layers over the top of images or to create screens. I think what I can suggest is if anyone wants to see how those things work, you can go to the testimonials sections. Hold on, no. One sec. You want to go to the team. So in the demo library, when you have a look, go to the team patterns. Once you have a look at those team patterns, you can really see what's possible when you have screens and overlays.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I'm looking at them.
Yeah, so if you scroll down a bit further, there's some really, really nice ones. which when you do the hover, it will create a screen over the top, and that screen is an icon. So that would be, if you go to the icon library as an example, you can go to creative shapes. And creative shapes, there's 1,500. Allows you to overlay these shapes with interactions to give you the cool effects that you
That's
get
neat.
inside
Yeah,
of the library.
I'm looking at one at the moment where it's a you've got like a card, a business card if you like, and you roll over the image of the person, and it's hard to describe, but an arrow sort of hovers into the top right hand corner of each image. That's neat. That's really nice.
So that's the effect that you have. Now all you can do is click on, once you have it in the editor,
Yeah.
you can just click on it and change it to a different arrow.
Yeah, whatever you like.
you want.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
And just swap it out. So it becomes really easy to customize.
So that was the, you mentioned the foundation blocks. This is the interaction builder that you're talking about now, where you can link elements and layers and do some advanced things there, animations and so on. What about full site editing? Are you hopping on board all of that? Are you hoping to leverage this? Are you going to be creating blocks around, I don't know, navigation and so on, or are you?
We already have.
Oh, go on.
But we've got them designed.
Yep.
So Kara's already designed about 60 different navigation menus, but the full site editing is changing so quickly, and there's so many changes that are happening right now. We had a basic implementation inside of Maxi Blocks. The plugin was there, and just with the recent updates that came through in the last one, we had a few little niggly bits that we need to solve, and that's what we are working on right now. So because there's so many interactions and integrations that need to go with it, we want to control it a little bit more so that it doesn't so that it's more compatible with Maxi Blocks. So the goal is, with our theme, we'll have a full site editing theme, which we're working on, as I've mentioned. That will fully integrate with everything. And
okay,
then,
so it will be a full site editing theme, the one that you ship.
100%.
Ah, nice.
It must be. It's critical.
Yeah. That's a good point. Kind of you're living in both worlds a bit there, aren't you? If you don't ship it like that.
No, you gotta have it. Yeah.
I feel like if you nail the navigation block, that's a product all by itself. You could so sell that. On the website, you've got additional things, like you've got the cloud templates, icons, style cards, and all of that kind of stuff. And you also mentioned that you've got custom Gutenberg blocks. What did you mean by that? It says enhance your experience with 16 custom Gutenberg blocks. That's just is that different from the foundation blocks?
No, they're the same thing.
Okay.
They're the foundation blocks.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Those are custom blocks we've had to build because there's so much functionality that we needed to add. I mean, inside of normal Gutenberg, they just recently added margins and padding. If you have a look at the items in our library, the amount of customization that you would have had to do to make it work with core Gutenberg would be quite difficult. It would be quite time consuming. So our goal was really, how do we make advanced patterns? And that's coming back to our business model. What's going to set us apart in 2 years from now from everyone else is the quality of our designs. Yeah. And because of that focus, the features and functionality that we added to our blocks was always with the goal in mind. How is this going to make our patterns more advanced, have better interactions and better animations and functionality, etc.? So that was always our goal.
I know if I don't ask this question, somebody will ask me why I didn't ask it, so I'm going to ask it. What about dynamic content? So custom field plugins. So let's take ACF, seems to be the dominant player. How are you supporting those kind of things? Is that available? Can I don't know, hook a paragraph block into some kind of text field in ACF or an image field? Is that either there or planned to ship?
It's already in dynamic content within the WordPress components. So you can access blocks, headlines, or blog posts. Those things are already in there. When you are inside of Maxi Blocks in the editor, in the editing experience of WordPress or Gutenberg, you'll see what looks like a couple of
It's like a dustbin or something,
little,
doesn't it?
five little five little round magnets stuck on top of each other.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yes. So that's already been integrated with the text Maxi, with image Maxi, with button Maxi. So you can include that dynamic content in there. That's already there. With regards to advanced custom fields, we are in the final stages of testing and merging the advanced custom fields in there, so that someone, when they have advanced custom fields installed on their site, it will then integrate with the Maxi Blocks components. These are very important things we need in order to build out the full theme. And the full site editing theme, where you can have blogs, archive pages, index pages, etc., or 404 pages, for example. Those are all requirements in order to do that. And we're in the final stages of implementing those. So the idea would be is then that when you are inside of the library, you can load a page, and any part of that page, you can click on it and activate the dynamic component to make that part of the pattern become dynamic.
So
That's
the
goal.
The workflow would be exactly the same for ACF if you have that installed as it would be for, I don't know, getting the excerpt or something like that. You would go through the same workflow, but you would be presented with the ACF options which are compatible with the kind of block that you're using. Okay, yeah, that's great.
It will just populate into the same drop down.
Right,
so
right.
It's registered as an option.
Right. Yeah, thank you. There's always conversations around what is the best way of laying out pages. I'm guessing that because you've got everything in rows that you've gone for something like Flexbox. Is that the method you've used?
Yes. Flexbox is fully integrated, so when you click on any block inside of the library, you can go to the advanced section and then click on the Flexbox components, and then it allows you. It's quite complicated, the Flexbox.
Oh yeah.
So it takes a little while to get your head around it. But that's the purpose of the library. The guys that build the library have a huge amount of experience. For 5 years they've been building patterns specifically for other people, and so they're quite familiar with all the different functionalities that you can have. So I would say if you want to experiment with it, go to the template library and browse and find something that's most similar to what you are trying to do,
right.
And then install that pattern and then analyze it. Click on the different pieces and see how it works and why it does that. We've got a interesting thing that we found was, because there's so many settings in the sidebar, one of the issues that you find is that you don't know where the setting is that you want to adjust.
Yeah,
so
right.
We implemented something, it looks like a little green rectangle that sits in the right sidebar. Whenever there's a custom setting that we've created or based on the pattern, or something that you've created yourself, it gives you that little corner. So at a glance, you can see, okay, that's where I should go and look for that setting. So when you click on it, it will show it to you. It's kind of hard to describe without seeing it. But once you're inside of the plugin and you're using it, you'll immediately see the little corner indicators, and that points you to where you can go and update those things.
So if there's some sort of customization away from a default, the little green indicator will show you,
Exactly.
somebody's been in here and fiddled. So
exactly.
okay, I got it.
Or I went there previously.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
let me just go back there and instead of clicking through all the items.
Oh yeah, that's
Obviously,
really useful
over time,
because it's so easy to forget what you did yesterday, no matter like a year ago. So the ready-made blocks include, at the moment, we've got accordion, call to action, footer, headlines, hero, icon, image, logo, number counter, pricing table, story mix, team and testimonial, and then under the planned features, so this is more into the roadmap, we've got AI tools, additional blocks, including image galleries, block quotes, and things, blogs and what have you. The navigation menu, which we've just discussed, and I should add, mega menu as well. Full site editing, I guess that will tie in with the theme. AI templates, nested slider, a menu builder. A context loop with repeater fields. That's interesting. Dynamic content, which we just talked about. We only mentioned ACF, but on the page here, it also mentions MetaBox, Jet Engine, and Toolset. And there's also a link to the roadmap, which you will be able to find if you follow the links in this podcast. Another question, which I know I'll get asked, is this one. What happens if we take away Maxi Blocks? In other words, what dependencies are we getting ourselves into here? You know, if we install some of these patterns, what's the requirement for keeping them on the page? Let's take this question in two stages. What's the requirement for it not breaking? And what's the requirement for it being continually editable, if you understand my meaning in that question?
Yes, I do. So if you install Maxi Blocks and you load the patterns from the library, it's using those custom blocks based on the Gutenberg editor. So the Gutenberg editor is there to help you do the different things with those blocks. If you publish the page, it will generate all the necessary code on the front end so that when someone's visiting the website, the page will function perfectly no matter what, whether Maxi Blocks is installed or not.
Nice.
The issue will come is when you want to edit that block in the editing experience and you want to customize it. It's a requirement that the Maxi Blocks plugin be there in order to understand the blocks that are on the page.
Right.
It would be similar to Elementor, for example. If you uninstall Elementor, you won't be able to edit the pieces. It's because of all the necessary functionality we've had to create. So as long as you have Maxi Blocks installed, you will be able to update any patterns on the page. You will receive all the updates, and it doesn't cost you anything. As I've mentioned before, the whole plugin and its functionality is free. So whatever you install from the Pro library as well, even if you subscribe and you cancel, doesn't matter. If you downloaded 10,000 patterns and you install them on pages for different customers or whatever, you can just leave the plugin there and they will all update as expected without us locking you into it.
Got it.
It will always there and work.
So the long and the short of that is, if Maxi Blocks is on, still installed and ready to go, then anything's possible. But if you remove the Maxi Blocks plugin, it'll still look great, but you won't be able to fiddle with it. But
the editing experience,
that's right.
It won't. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But the nice thing about the conversation here is it won't cost you anything to get the plugin back again. So, that's kind of nice. Yeah. There's no subscription there. We've kind of reached the point at which I think we should wind it up a little bit. We're on 45 minutes now. So,
great.
Really, I think the message here is, if somebody's listened to this podcast and has been intrigued, thought, okay, this is new, this is interesting, I'd like to check this out. We've mentioned the URLs. We probably don't need to do that. Just tell us a little bit about first of all, any social channels or email addresses that you want to let people know about, but also whilst you're doing that, tell us about the kind of support that you offer and whether that's rolled into Pro, or do you offer support for free?
We do. There's the free support, obviously, in the WordPress forum, but as well in the Pro library, you can email us and contact us directly. We also, at this moment in time, while we just starting out and trying to discover any challenges that people might have and what documentation or videos we need to create. We have a live chat functionality which sits inside of the plugin, but also on the website. So whenever you have any issues, you can just come to the website and have a chat with us. So you can get support that way. What was the other question you had?
Yeah, just if you've got any social channels or ways that people can communicate, perhaps directly with you or other team members, what's the best way to get in touch, basically?
Just come to the website and launch the chat box and start a conversation. Obviously, if you don't want to chat, you can just send a message that way. That's fine. We will get those messages into our inbox. If you want to do social, you can go to our YouTube channel in order to watch some videos, some short tutorial videos or some live build videos, which shows you how to build specific patterns inside of the library from start to finish. That is so YouTube and then Maxi Blocks I think it's at Maxi Blocks, one word, MaxiBlocks. You can also find us on Twitter at the same one, which is at Maxi Blocks, one word. And that's pretty much where we are at the moment.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's really always interesting chatting to a new product owner, but it really, I think this is worth looking at just because of the amount of work which has obviously gone into it to get it to the point where they're bringing it to the market, but also just such a curious and interesting business model where you're giving a lot away and hopefully the product will sell itself on the time saved by just downloading some of these some of the pro patterns and templates and so on and so forth. Christian, been an absolute pleasure chatting to you today. All the best with the product. I hope it goes well, and you never know, we'll maybe get you back at some point and you can tell us all about your journey in a few years' time. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Nathan.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed that. Very nice chatting to Christian today, all about Maxi Blocks. Make sure to go and check the site out and see what you make of it. Certainly a really interesting offering. And obviously, as you've heard in the podcast there, the pricing and the way that they're doing things is really rather different. The WP Builds podcast is brought to you today by GoDaddy Pro. GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with The Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. You can find out more by heading to go.me/WP Builds. And sincere, true, honest thanks to GoDaddy Pro for their support of the WP Builds podcast. We shall be back next Thursday for a podcast episode. That'll be with David Wormsley and myself. We'll also be back on Monday live for our This Week in WordPress show at the very easy to remember URL wpbuilds.com/live. Come and join us and make a comment. Don't forget as well, if you want to put the calendar dates in for the shows with Mark Westgard, all about WS Form, and the next turnaround, the UI UX show with Pete Chineri, go to the homepage of WP Build. Scroll down just a little bit and you'll see a couple of cards with some calendar links and so on. So that's all on wpbuilds.com. That's it for this week. We will see you hopefully at some point in the next week. I'm about to fade in some cheesy music and ask you to stay safe. Bye-bye for now.